Okay, let's start with the big one. How do we even define sanity
Mhm.
or madness?
And maybe even more importantly, who gets to make that call? Who draws the line?
Exactly. Welcome, everyone, to The Deep Dive, where we try to get under the skin of complex ideas and, question some common assumptions.
And today, we're doing a really fascinating deep dive, looking at psychiatry from a perspective that, well, it really shook things up.
We're diving into David Cooper's book, Psychiatry and Anti-Psychiatry, first published back in '67, right?
That's right, 1967, and later reprinted by Routledge. It's part of this bigger collection, the International Behavioral and Social Sciences Library. It's a key text if you want to understand the whole anti-psychiatry movement.
And Cooper, he really throws you in at the deep end. He talks about this Zen doubt sensation for people working in psychiatry.
Yeah, that feeling of questioning everything, like, why am I even here? Who decided I should be here?
It is life and death, sanity and madness. I mean, these are the absolute fundamental questions, aren't they?
They really are. He's questioning the whole foundation of their work.
So our mission today in this deep dive is really to explore what Cooper was getting at with these pretty challenging questions.
We want to look at how that label, schizophrenic, how does it actually get attached to someone? Who does the attaching?
And what does it really mean? Not just for the person labeled, but maybe more importantly, for the people doing the labeling.
It kind of flips the script, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Suggesting maybe the issue isn't just what's wrong with the patient.
But maybe what's wrong with the system itself.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Cooper has this central idea he calls social invalidation. He says it works in two ways that are linked.
Right. So the first way is how a person is kind of pushed into this passive role, an invalid or patient.
Even if they're doing things in the hospital, like, activities.
Yeah, even then, Cooper calls it an illusion of activity. It's like they're performing the role of patient that the institution expects. It's not really genuine activity.
Okay, that's one part. What's the second?
Well, the second part is connected. He says almost everything the person says or does, their experiences, it all gets systematically ruled invalid.
By who?
Often by their family, by others around them. And Cooper's point is, this isn't just happening randomly. It's sometimes done almost unconsciously to create what he calls a vitally needed invalid patient.
Vitally needed. That sounds quite dark. Why would society need that?
Well, this is where Cooper gets really controversial. He argues that psychiatry, over the last 100 years or so, has become, well, far too closely aligned with the alienated needs of society.
So it's serving society's needs more than the patient's.
That's his argument. He even calls it a well-intentioned act of betrayal
Yeah.
towards the patients who get sort of ejected into the psychiatric situation.
A betrayal. Wow. Despite good intentions, the system itself ends up being part of the problem, maybe even reinforcing societal norms instead of healing.
That's the implication, yeah. It's a really powerful critique.
So given this picture, why would anyone choose to enter this system? Cooper looks at that too, right?
He does. He observes that, well, many people seek help because they want tools, techniques, basically to fit in better.
To conform.
Yet to conform with massified social expectations, as he puts it. They want to fit the mold, and he says, the system usually helps them do that.
Okay, so it works for some people, in a way, but not everyone.
No. He contrasts that with what he calls a few misguided persons who are looking for something more like spiritual guidance.
And what happens to them?
He says they're usually rapidly disillusioned. It doesn't offer what they're searching for.
It really shows a tension there, doesn't it, between conformity and something deeper?
Absolutely. And Cooper's book, it mostly focuses on young people, often facing their first or maybe second admission to a mental hospital.
The ones who get labeled schizophrenic.
Exactly. And he really emphasizes that they are often precipitated into the psychiatric situation by others, usually their families. It's not always their own choice to be there.
Right. And the numbers he quotes about schizophrenia, they're pretty staggering.
They really are. He says schizophrenic patients take up 2/3 of the beds in most mental hospitals.
2/3. And mental hospitals themselves account for nearly half of all hospital beds in the UK at the time. That's huge.
It's enormous. And he adds that almost 1% of the population ends up hospitalized for a schizophrenic breakdown at some point.
Plus, there's that Swiss psychiatrist, Bleuler.
Ah, yes, E. Bleuler.
Yeah.
He observed there were maybe 10 people living in the community with symptoms for every one person actually in hospital.
So the scale of this diagnosis or label is just massive.
It is. But then Cooper immediately throws in this crucial warning. This is absolutely key to his whole anti-psychiatry viewpoint.
Okay, what's the warning?
He says, look, if we look at the statistics in this way, we are already prejudging schizophrenia as some sort of actual entity which some people have.
Ah, so just by counting cases, we're assuming it's a real thing.
Precisely. He says, and here we would begin to err. He's fundamentally questioning if schizophrenia is this fixed biological thing you catch, like the flu.
Or maybe it's something more constructed,
Yeah.
shaped by how we react to people.
That's exactly the direction he's pushing us in. It's a radical shift.
And he connects this to broader societal patterns, doesn't he? About how society deals with minorities or people who are different.
Yes, he talks about techniques of invalidation society uses. It could be subtle things like insinuated derogation, little put-downs.
All the way up to, well, mass extermination in the most extreme historical cases.
Right. And he argues that the public conscience often needs some kind of excuse, some justification for treating people badly.
And this is where medicine comes in.
This is Cooper's really pointed argument. He believes that no technique of invalidation is more respectable or even sacrosanct than that which has the blessing of medical science.
So using a medical label makes the invalidation seem legitimate, acceptable.
That's what he's suggesting. He's careful. He acknowledges medicine has liberal and humane ideals, the Hippocratic Oath and all that. But he questions if medical ways of thinking are always appropriate for understanding human behavior. He suggests psychiatry might have ended up cooperating in the systematic invalidation of many people.
By essentially labeling difference as illness, it gives society a respectable way to control or marginalize people who don't fit in.
That's the uncomfortable implication, yes.
Okay, so that's a pretty heavy critique. Did Cooper just leave it there, or did he offer some kind of alternative?
No, he definitely proposed an alternative. And this is where it gets really interesting, moving beyond just critique. He suggests an approach that's very different from the usual clinical model.
How so?
Well, he was heavily influenced by family studies happening in the U.S., and also, more specifically, the work of R.D. Laing and A. Esterson in the U.K.
Ah, Laing and Esterson, big names in anti-psychiatry known for looking at family.
Exactly. They did these phenomenological family studies.
Cooper believed you could actually understand the journey of someone diagnosed as schizophrenic, their patient career, by looking closely at their family world, not just seeing them as isolated individuals with symptoms.
Right. He argued it wasn't just opaque clinical data, it was understandable if you looked at the family dynamics, the key events that happened.
So this thinking led to something practical.
Yes, it led directly to an experimental unit called Villa 21. It was set up within a larger mental hospital, specifically for young people diagnosed with schizophrenia.
An experiment. What were they trying to do differently?
Crucially, they weren't just focused on the patient's supposed irrationality. They were also looking at what Cooper termed institutional irrationality.
Meaning how the hospital system itself might be, well, irrational or harmful.
Exactly. The goal was to find a non-exploitative, non-invalidating strategy for people admitted because they were labeled mad.
Was this totally unique, or were others thinking along similar lines?
Well, there were other pioneers developing therapeutic communities, people like Maxwell Jones, Wilmer, Artis, who were also trying to make hospitals more collaborative and less hierarchical.
Yeah.
But Cooper argued Villa 21 was unique because of its specific family-orientated therapeutic ideology applied directly to schizophrenia. It was really trying to put his family-focused ideas into practice.
A really bold attempt to see the person within their whole context, not just as a diagnosis.
Absolutely.
So if we bring all these threads together, the critique of invalidation, the challenge to the diagnosis itself, this alternative therapeutic approach, what's the big takeaway from Cooper's work?
It really culminates in his concern about violence in psychiatry.
Violence. That sounds extreme. What kind of violence is he talking about? Physical violence?
Not necessarily, or not only. He puts it very provocatively. He says, perhaps the most striking form of violence in psychiatry is nothing less than the violence of psychiatry itself.
Okay, how so?
Insofar as this discipline chooses to refract and condense onto its identified patients the subtle violence of the society it only too often represents.
Whoa. So psychiatry acts like a lens, focusing society's own subtle violence onto the individual patient.
That's the idea. By pathologizing the individual, it reflects and maybe even intensifies the pressures and invalidations already present in society, representing society to and against the patient. It's a really profound and disturbing thought.
And he wanted to explore this further.
Yes, he mentioned plans for another future experimental unit to build on what they learned and this powerful realization.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, then, we've really seen Cooper throw down a gauntlet to conventional psychiatry.
Absolutely. Challenging the medical model of schizophrenia, highlighting social and family invalidation, and proposing a radically different, more contextualized way of helping people.
And Villa 21 stands as this, well, this real-world attempt to put those revolutionary ideas into action.
It really makes you, the listener, think about the sheer power of labels, doesn't it? And how systems and just broader societal pressures shape how we even understand something like mental health.
It pushes us to look beyond the individual, definitely.
Yeah, to see the whole picture.
And it leaves us with this really challenging final thought. If Cooper is right, even partly right, that the violence of psychiatry can be a reflection of a subtle societal violence, well, what does that say about the society we're all part of?
And maybe what's our collective responsibility? Not just in healing individuals, perhaps, but in healing the social structures themselves.
Definitely something to chew on long after this deep dive ends.